What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. We are back with another Sunday live stream. If this is your first time here, welcome. We obviously talk about a lot of things in this show. We're going to what we do is we go through the injuries. We talk about a lot of the players that you're going to have questions about, and then we're going to move on to the players that you have questions specifically on your fantasy team. So we always start talking about the injuries first and foremost. But if you guys are here, I want you guys to do me a big favor, right? So a lot of people ask me, if there's anything we can do to help repay, for spending time with us on Sunday mornings. All I ask that you guys do, go down there, hit that like button, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, because that way you're going to be entered for a few different things we do. One of the things that we're actually doing right now is we are giving away a Michael Thomas jersey, a signed Michael Thomas jersey. It's right there on the screen for you guys. We are giving that away, and we want one of you guys to win it. You will not be entered to win unless you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. So just do that for me as a favor first and foremost. But outside of that, I want you guys to win that jersey. I want one of you guys to do it. The details are there. They're going to put that in the video in the chat. If you guys want to see that, you guys can actually know where to go for the jersey giveaway. So we're going to get to that. But let's start with the news up top. If you guys haven't heard, if you've been, let's say that you just don't pay attention to football until Sundays. That's fine. That's what we're here for. Devonta Freeman is not going to play. He's got a bone contusion on his foot or something like that. Basically, it's another issue. There was another thing that popped up on the injury report as well. So Devonta Freeman is not playing. In all honesty, I don't know if he plays next week either. It's a mess, and I believe they play in prime time, so I think that's a Sunday night game, if I'm not mistaken. So therefore, you might be without Devonta Freeman for another week. So he's just been a disaster to have on your fantasy team this year. He's not playing this week. Another player who is out is Leonard Fournette. Another player who has also killed fantasy teams who took him early in the first round. He's obviously not going to play. There's been rumors that he may be held out for another week or two just to make sure that everything is right. He did run on the side this week, so they're saying that there's hope for him to return next week, but I wouldn't be one to assume that. I think they've learned their lesson here with Leonard Fournette. Going on to the next one, we have Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, they're expecting him to be limited and on a snap count. So he basically, I don't want to say limited snap count. Maybe I should. That's what they're saying. And I want to be completely honest with you guys. I don't know if I believe this one, because they already brought him back one time and they kind of pulled him out of the game and they held him out the next week. I didn't think that they were going to play Dalvin Cook until he was 100% healthy. I really want to believe that. Just understand that there's some extra risk involved in starting him. This game should be somewhat of a blowout between the Vikings and Cardinals. If he's pulled, I think it's because they're out in front and with a big lead. I don't think it's pulled because he re-aggravates anything. I think that he's going to be able to play. I'm plugging him in as an RB2 this week if you own him, and I understand that he does come with some risk, sure, but there's not many running backs that don't outside the maybe top 10. So I'll go ahead with him. One of the names I do want to mention, another one who's out, is T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton is not going to play this week with he's got a shoulder injury, he's got a hamstring injury. He's another player that we're looking at next week. He was nowhere close to playing this week. He is out along with his teammate Jack Doyle, so you don't have to worry about them. They're not going to be in your fantasy lineups. Moving on, Matt Breida. He's someone that a lot of people probably might want to rely on, but I would not. The 49ers had brought a few players in to basically do workouts this week. I didn't see if they had actually signed anyone, but Breida had been practicing on a limited basis. They're saying that he's questionable. I don't know why they trot him out here for this game, guys. It just doesn't make all too much sense to me. So I personally, I don't think he plays. So I would be preparing to go without Matt Breida. I'm sure a lot of you guys will have questions on him, so I'll try and address those as we get through. But moving on, John Ross, another player that's out. I don't think many people are starting him right now. Eric Ebron was removed from the injury report. Don't have to worry about him. We have Isaiah Crowell. Isaiah Crowell, he is someone that showed up on the injury report. We didn't know what was going on. He didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday, and suddenly he came back to practice in a limited fashion on Friday. They are saying today that he is probably going to play, that he made it through Friday's practice relatively well with an ankle injury. So it's not a soft tissue injury. That's fine. I would play him as you normally would. I have him ranked as a low-end RB2, high-end RB3 this week, but it could be a week where you might see a little bit more Bilal Powell than usual. Moving down we have Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen is going to play. They're saying he's going to start, and I totally That's my assumption, that he would start. I don't know why he would be active and not start. So Greg Olsen's going to play. I don't want to play him in this matchup, though. It's not a good week to play him. If you go back to last year and you look at what he did when he returned from his foot injury, he did not play very well. I want to say that he maybe had a catch or two in that game. He didn't play well at all. So Greg Olsen is someone that I'm not interested in playing this week, but just know that he is back if you need a tight end. I have him ranked around that tight end 16 range, so he's not even in starter territory for me this week. Going on down to the Redskins have so many issues with their roster right now. There's a lot of question marks. You have Adrian Peterson, who's going to play. He's pushing through multiple injuries. Apparently, he dislocated his shoulder last week, and then he popped it back into place or something like that. I don't know. It's something crazy. Chris Thompson, on the other hand, it doesn't look like he's going to play. They're saying that he's a game-time decision, but it's not looking great. The same goes for Jamison Crowder. Jamison Crowder is someone that throughout his career, he has not played well through injuries, so you need to approach with caution even if he does play. It sounds like he's on the worst shot of 50-50. Doesn't seem like he's going to play. Paul Richardson, another one, he's questionable. He's a game-time decision. So this entire Washington offense is just seriously all banged up. They don't know what to do. There's a lot of issues there. So, on top of that, you have Alex Smith, who had one of the worst games of his career. And that was on primetime last week. Everybody's seen that. It was not a good game. So just understand that there's a lot of injuries on the Washington side of the ball. You might see, I would like to say that Jordan Reed would see more targets in this game, but seeing 2 targets against the Saints, it was a tough matchup, but still, that's uncalled for. Moving down to, we have Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp. The good news for these guys is that they both cleared concussion protocol. They are both going to play. The bad news is I saw a picture from one of my bosses that actually lives in Denver, and there's snow on the ground up there. If there's snow on the ground, that's obviously going to impact the deep ball that Brandon Cooks does. It's going to impact the passing game as a whole. So, maybe just a run-heavy game script for the Rams, but understand that those two are active, and you can put them in your lineups if you choose to do so. The snow, I'm sure it's going to be off the field by the time they play, but just know that it's a little colder up there today. Moving down to Pierre Garçon, he's someone that they're saying that they don't know if he's going to play. He injured his shoulder last week, and he didn't practice much, if at all, this week. I didn't see if he made it into practice yesterday, but he is looking very, very iffy for this game. So I would not suggest going forward with him. And speaking of that, that same exact game that's on Monday night, we have Geronimo Allison and Randall Cobb, who both are dealing with hamstring injuries. It's not even the concussion for Geronimo Allison anymore. It's a hamstring injury, and the reason that I don't really want to depend on any of these guys for Monday Night Football is because you don't have many guys that you could just pick up off the waiver wire and just start. If you want to start Allison or Cobb, you could pick up Equinemius St. Brown. He's probably available. Valdez Scantling is probably taken already. After last week's performance, I would imagine someone picked him up off the waiver wire. Trent Taylor is out for the 49ers. So it's just looking at the replacement options that you have, they're not great. Kendrick Bourne, is that what you want to do? And, to swap out one of these guys? So understand that Garçon, Allison, and Cobb, they're all really iffy. I think Garçon probably has the best shot to play. The reason I don't think Allison and Cobb play is because the Packers have their bye week. They have their bye week next week. So with their bye week coming, I just feel like they should take it easy with those players and not rush them back. They should be able to win this game without them. So that's where I'm at. All right. So now that I've wrapped up all of that, I do want to remind you guys, a lot of you guys loved it last week, and I know that there's a lot of new people in here to this week, so I want to make sure you guys know that we have, so when you guys watch NFL Red Zone, it's like the best thing. It was like once it was introduced to fantasy footballers, it was like you were hooked to it, right? You watch that. I know me personally, I used to have my laptop set up next to me with Game Tracker, Stat Tracker, whatever, whatever site you play on, they have their stat tracking, whatever. We at FantasyPros decided to do it one better. It's kind of like Red Zone for your fantasy team. Okay, so you go to fantasypros.com/game day, and what it does is it imports your teams, and it only gives you the stats that you want to see. You no longer have to wonder, oh wait, who just got the 40-yard catch? Who was that? It'll tell you. It actually updates your team in live, like real time. It is a fantastic feature. I can't recommend it enough. If you're one that wants to watch your fantasy scoring during the games, that is like Red Zone for your fantasy team. So make sure you guys check that out. And again, for any of you late stragglers in here, make sure you guys go down, hit the subscribe button. what happens is, so this show, we've been growing. You guys have been awesome. You guys have been coming week after week, and we appreciate it. And, to measure our success, we're seeing the subscribers go up. I ask you guys to please hit that subscribe button below, hit the like button. It really does help me out. It shows that we keep growing and that we can keep doing more and more things like this for you guys. That's all we want to do. So if you guys know me, it's like legitimately, that's what I want to do. There is the link for it, fantasypros.com/NFL/game day. It is up there. So let me start taking some questions from you guys now that we've gotten through the injuries. With the way the questions go, just so you guys know, the way the questions go, I grab them randomly. There's no way that I could go in order, just because the way that YouTube works, they just disappear on me, and I just have to scroll to a point, hit stop, and then answer some. So that's what I'm going to do, and I will be doing for the next, roughly 45 minutes. So go ahead, shoot your question there. If I don't get to it, try and shoot it again later. But seriously, I'm just going to try and answer as many as I possibly can. All right, Cameron Brate, Trey Burton, or Austin Hooper. This one's tough. I mean, I'm probably going to say Cameron Brate here, just because you have Brate playing against an Atlanta team that's really struggled against every position. It's not just tight ends, against every position in that secondary, missing a stud linebacker, missing both their safeties. Those are the positions that typically cover a tight end. So Cameron Brate in there with Jameis Winston, who has favored him in his career. And then on top of that, I know that OJ Howard is apparently trying to play this week. That's weird. I don't know why they would push him to play. I think it might be more like, okay, we'll play you for a few snaps if you feel up to it. But I think Cameron Brate, this is his job. Trey Burton and the Bears, I think the defense should win that game. It's news came out this morning. I should probably let you guys know that too, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, is that Ryan Tannehill might not even play. They're saying that his shoulder injury has him on the worst side of questionable, and that he might not play. So we might see Brock Osweiler versus the Bears defense. I just don't know how much the Bears throw this game. Austin Hooper, not a bad play this week, honestly, but I would still play Cameron Brate over him. All right. So let's see. Dalvin Cook or Mohamed Sanu. I personally, man, this is tough. This is really tough to do. So I would go with Mohamed Sanu. And the reason I say that is just because his matchup is really just too good. If you look at the Bucs secondary, they're starting 2 rookies, and one of the rookies is in the slot, and that's MJ Stewart. MJ Stewart has really struggled in the slot. Knowing that Matt Ryan, it kind of goes back to how I felt about Drew Brees back at the beginning of the season with no Mark Ingram. He had no run game. They have a run game technically with Tevin Coleman, but it's not like a power run game where they're going to be carrying the ball 25 times a game. That's not how they're going to move the ball down the field. They're going to do it through the air. And knowing that, it's like there can be 3 viable pass catchers for Matt Ryan. And Mohamed Sanu, I mean, he might have the second best matchup, because you have Julio Jones going to match up with Carlton Davis, another rookie. You're going to have Sanu matching up with Stewart, and then Calvin Ridley is going to be matched up primarily with Brent Grimes. So there's a lot of good matchups for them to exploit, and knowing that Dalvin Cook comes with some risk, it's just avoid the risk if you can. I'm usually down with running backs in between those pick and choose battles, but I will take Mohamed Sanu this week. Allen Robinson overranked. Robinson, QT, or Funchess. So QT, my concern is that's a very, very low scoring game. I'm just not a huge fan of that game in general. I don't think that you need to attack that game against Buffalo. They're probably going to go very run heavy. I don't mind QT at all, but I don't love him. Funchess, decent matchup against Washington. When you look at that game, you say that Josh Norman doesn't shadow. That's fine. Quentin Dunbar has done an okay job on the other side. So it's like, I don't mind him, but I would probably go Allen Robinson. He's the most talented wide receiver of the bunch. They're all in a little bit of questionable situations this week. So Xavier Howard doesn't traditionally travel into the slot. So Allen Robinson's been playing plenty of his snaps out of the slot. But here's the thing. Minkah Fitzpatrick has been covering the slot, and he's good too. But here's the thing. Allen Robinson, the Bears have to move the ball some way outside the run. They're going to throw the ball at times. Allen Robinson, I like him coming out of the bye. He's the one I would play of those guys. They all come with some question marks, but I'd play Allen Robinson. All right, PPR flex, Ryan Grant, Ito Smith, Kenyon Drake. Oh my God. So Karen, I'm so sorry. I meant to tell you guys that if you guys are asking a question, if it's got more than 3 players in it, I can't do it, just because there's way too many things, and I have to literally process it, because I try and think about your questions. I promise I do, to the point where it's if there's so many, it's going to set me back in the other questions. So please just, if you guys can narrow them down. Calvin Ridley or Bilal Powell in flex in a standard league. I mean, I'd probably go with Ridley here. Ridley, the upside is there for more. I just don't know how high the upside is for Bilal Powell this week. I mean, he's going to be sharing a load with Isaiah Crowell, as he always does. It's not a PPR format where you're even going to get points for those little dump offs. So I'll go with Ridley. I know he presents a higher ceiling. The floor is probably higher with Bilal Powell, but I'm not going to aim for the floor in that situation. Like I'll play Ridley. RB standard, I need one. Aaron Jones, Alfred Morris, or Bilal Powell. I would play Alfred Morris in standard. So Aaron Jones has still yet to see more than 11 carries this season. They have not trusted him in anything bigger than, just like a timeshare role. Jamal Williams is still getting a lot of work. They're splitting it. Ty Montgomery's mixed in. There's so many question marks there. Aaron Jones comes with upside. He absolutely does. But at least Alfred Morris, he's going to get goal line carries for his team. Like, he is the sole running back this week. He's going to catch a few passes, but he's going to get all the goal line work. I mean, even if Matt Breida does play, I don't think Breida plays in like a big role or anything like that. So I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Alfred Morris here. Is it time to move on from Royce Freeman, pick up Aaron Jones? I think Aaron Jones should be picked up. I don't think I would move on from Royce Freeman because he's a really good running back. He's running really well. It's just the opportunities have been very limited for him. So understand that once he starts getting more opportunities, he's going to play well. He just needs to get them. And Vance Joseph reports came out today that he's on the hot seat, and it's very possible that he might get fired soon. So that could change the entire outlook of this offense and how they incorporate someone like Royce Freeman. So I wouldn't drop him, but I would find a way to add Aaron Jones to your team for sure. All right, let's see. David Johnson or Tyler Boyd in the flex. That one I'm going to go with David Johnson. So, I mean, I don't love David Johnson this week. Not like obviously against Minnesota. They're going on the road. They're playing like last week the Cardinals played, I think it was 92 snaps in that game, and now they're traveling across the country to Minnesota, and they're playing in Minnesota, where this is a team that lost in front of their home crowd against Buffalo. Like, this is not a game they will take lightly. There's sometimes you can catch them at like a spot where they're kind of like looking past that game. That's not going to happen this week. The Vikings should be like in a spot to like destroy here. So David Johnson, can he get some work in the receiving game? Absolutely. That's the thing, is like, I will take the volume there. Tyler Boyd against the Steelers, I don't think that matchup is going to be particularly as high scoring as people think it is, just because it's like you have Roethlisberger on the road. I think the Steelers defense matches up really well actually with the Bengals offense. You have AJ Green matching up with Joe Hayden, who over his career, Joe Hayden has pretty much shut down AJ Green. Not saying that that's going to continue to happen, because Hayden's older. AJ Green is playing the best football of his life. But missing John Ross to stretch the field, missing Tyler Eifert, there's a lot of things there. Mixon, the Steelers have stopped the run pretty well. So it's like, you look at the way these teams match up, and I think it's going to be a little low scoring. Tyler Boyd will match up with Mike Hilton. It's not a bad matchup because they do play a lot of zone, but I would go David Johnson, take the guaranteed touches. Tariq Cohen or Marshawn Lynch in a PPR, I'm playing Lynch. I think Lynch scores at least one touchdown in this game, if not two. Again, that game is taking place in London, if you guys haven't paid attention to all that stuff. We have the first London game. But the thing is like, they did it neat this year, is that this game it'll start with the normal time. However, next week, the game that they have on Thursday or in London will take place at 9 in the morning or something like that. So it's going to switch back. But I'll play Lynch there. I think Tariq Cohen, I don't want to... I don't want to overthink, his last performance, because while it was a good game, they said it was very matchup script. Like the script that they had for the matchup was just to use Tariq Cohen quite a bit. You're going to see this week where Jordan Howard's going to be more heavily utilized against Miami, and then people are going to start to come around in that aspect. If you can get Jordan Howard for cheap right now and play him against Miami this week, I would do that. All right, let's see. Corey Davis or Isaiah Crowell in a full PPR. I would go with Crowell there. I mean, I think that like Corey Davis' ceiling this week is probably like something like 5 catches for 70 yards. Like that's like his ceiling, because, like against Baltimore, I don't think people realize just how good Baltimore's secondary is. They got Jimmy Smith back. He didn't play all the snaps last week, but between Jimmy Smith, Brandon Carr, Marlon Humphrey, they have a really good secondary. So, I mean, Corey Davis, Marcus Mariota is struggling a bit. I'll go with Crowell. He's dealing with an ankle injury, which is a bit worrisome, but at the same time, I'll take the guaranteed touches. Is Sony a go? If not, Powell or Aaron Jones? Sony's going to play. I mean, as far as I know, like there's nothing that screams that Sony shouldn't play. It seems like he was just limited. I think like if you look at the Patriots injury report and like how many players that were limited in practice, there was a ton on that. Like it seems like they're just resting players. They're trying to keep them fresh, and they just don't have very much depth on that team. Where if something happened to Sony Michel, then what are they left with? I mean, James White's not going to carry the ball 30 times a game. Like, you can't do that. So I think Sony's playing. Thoughts on Rojo this week? I'm slowly backing away. I really did think that this was the week after the bye that they were going to go to him as the starting running back. Being they made him active in week 4, they played him in the second half against the Bears, and Peyton Barber hasn't done anything. Like, he legitimately has done nothing to make you say, we should keep playing this guy. Like, I feel like Ronald Jones could be the lead back in Tampa this week, but at the same time, they could say, Peyton Barber, you're on your last legs. We're gonna mix Ronald Jones in, but Barber, I mean, this is a matchup where whoever gets the carries is going to be valuable. Like, I wish I knew which one was going to, just because, like, I would play Ronald Jones as a low end RB2 if I knew that he was starting and that Bilal Powell was inactive, or that Peyton Barber was inactive. If I knew that Barber was starting and that he was going to get the majority of touches, I would play Barber, as a high end RB3. So it's a little worrisome, but again, if you're in a spot where it's like you have bye weeks here and you have to start someone, I don't think Ronald Jones is going to be like the worst starter or anything like that. Mike Williams or Larry Fitz, full point PPR and 0.1 per target. So Larry Fitz was removed from the injury report, but he still hasn't looked right, throughout the last 2 weeks. I don't think I want to trust him over Mike Williams. The thing is like Larry Fitzgerald, let's like realistically look at it. He hasn't had, I don't think he's had more than 35 yards since week 1. So the guy is he's just not a big part of the offense. Christian Kirk is starting to get more targets. David Johnson, they need to work him into the passing game. Ricky Seals-Jones, Chad Williams, they're starting to involve so many other players that Larry Fitzgerald's just not the focal point anymore. So I don't think that there's enough upside with Larry Fitzgerald to take him over Mike Williams. Both players come with risk. Obviously, Mike Williams, there's a lot of playmakers in that offense, and he has a pretty tough matchup against Cleveland, but I would go with Mike Williams. I know that there's touchdown upside there. Larry Fitzgerald, not so much. Russell Wilson or Phillip Rivers. That's really close. So I have Russell Wilson one spot higher than Phillip Rivers. Cleveland, the thing is Cleveland's been really good. Their defense is so much better than people wanted to give it credit for. They're lacking against the run a little bit. I think it might have had to do with the trading of Danny Shelton this offseason, because their run defense has been the one, the part of their team that's struggling. So I think Melvin Gordon is the way that they should attack this game, not necessarily through the receivers. I mean, they can move the ball through Keenan Allen, but I personally would go Russell Wilson here. Oakland is a very mediocre defense. They're not good. Their front seven can be run on, and they will be run on. I do think that the Seahawks will be able to run the ball on them, but there's so much bad on that team right now with John Gruden and the players and Bruce Irvin not showing any sort of effort. There's a lot of problems. So I'll go Russell Wilson. The offense looked better last week, so hopefully they're growing into the offense, and it took some time. That's what we can hope. All right, let's see. CJ Beathard or Carr in a standard? That's crazy, right? That we're even thinking about this. I have Beathard one spot higher than Derek Carr, so I guess that's where I would go. But the thing is here's the thing. It wouldn't shock me with Derek Carr if he showed up and he finishes a top 12 quarterback this week, because Seattle's defense is they're gutted. They're gutted, right? And to know last week that Jared Goff, he didn't have the greatest game, but I don't want to say that that's who Seattle is. I don't want to say that at all. There's a lot of factors that go into when you play in London. I think there's a lot of things that we don't factor in, and I don't think there's anything safe about playing a player who's going in a London game. So it's Derek Carr, knowing he's not safe to begin with, knowing he's really up and down to begin with. There's just so many things there. I would go Beathard. At least you're going to get some garbage time production. It's not great, man, but it really stinks that you have to choose between those guys. That's all I have to say. Let's see. Isaiah Crowell or Cook. I would play Cook in that situation. Jared Goff or Russell Wilson. I would play Jared Goff. Denver is not a scary defense anymore. They're really not. I went through it in the primer this week and talked about it, where the Broncos, there's I think it was 6 teams. If you go over 2017 and 2018 combined so far, I think there was 6 teams that have allowed more passing touchdowns than Denver. And you guys would of all of those players, or of all those teams, I should say, of all those teams, you would not have associated the Broncos with them. They've not been a good passing defense. It seems like they're going to be without Adam Jones this week. There's a lot of issues. All right. Boom. All right. There's a question that was down there. How low does Sony Michel fall being a game time decision? Is the volume still there? Yes. I'm not worried about Sony Michel, guys. That's a player that, again, this is a Patriots team. I think they probably would have signed somebody if they were really worried about Sony Michel. I don't think they are. I'm still playing him as an RB1. I'm not worried about the volume. All right, let me scroll down here a bit. All right, Kiki QT or Alfred Morris in a PPR. I would play Alfred Morris. Give me the guaranteed touches. I like QT, but at the same time, it's like, Buffalo's been a really good defense as of late. QT, with the pressure that they're going to bring on Deshaun Watson, does he check down more? Possibly, but it could be a game where it's like 5 catches, 50 yards for QT, and it's not like, that's not going to win you a fantasy week or anything like that. Alfred Morris is going to be involved a little bit more in the passing game. He is going to get the goal line work, so I'll trust that because the 49ers are going to score at some point, and when they do, I'm assuming that it's probably going to be Alfred Morris. John Brown or Cooper Kupp in the snow. So yeah, that's a really tough one. And Cooper Kupp, not only is he playing in the snow, but he's matched up with Chris Harris Jr. in the slot. He has the toughest matchup of any Rams receiver, and it's not even that close. So me personally, I have John Brown ranked slightly higher than him, and that's who I would go with. What about Jared Goff in the snow game? Yeah. So the snow game, I haven't been able to see much of that. And honestly, while I'm doing the live show, I'm not able to watch weather reports or see the field and the conditions in. I would assume that the field is going to be cleared off by the time they play. And I don't know if I don't think it's supposed to snow throughout the game. I mean, I could be wrong because again, I don't have all the information, but I'm not too worried about Jared Goff. I mean, he's like a low-end QB1 for me this week. So it's not like, I'm like saying he's an elite start. He's like QB8 right now in my rankings, so I'm not too high on him or anything. All right, let's see. Doug Baldwin or Emmanuel Sanders? I would go with Doug Baldwin, I think. I mean, it's close. That one's really close. Me personally, I'd play, if it was my fantasy team, I would play Doug Baldwin just because I believe Doug Baldwin is going to break out here at some point. I went back and I watched that game a little bit closer because I wanted to see Baldwin and see if he was running routes as well as he usually does. And he was getting open. There was a time actually on the second touchdown that Russell Wilson threw to, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name right now. This never happens, but he was throwing a touchdown down the right side. Doug Baldwin literally had his hand up in the air like, hey, I'm open, like, throw to me. He had like a couple yards separation down the sideline, so he's getting separation. It's just a matter of being back involved in the game plan. I think that's going to happen here. So, yeah, I'm not worried about Doug Baldwin. Emmanuel Sanders, Case Keenum hasn't played very well. The Rams defense, their perimeter cornerbacks have been getting burned recently, so Demaryius Thomas or Cortland Sutton might have a better game, but yeah. So it's not expected to be snowing during the game in Denver, but will continue to snow up until kickoff with a wind chill at 22 degrees. Thank you for the info, Chris. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not... Again, Jared Goff, I have him as a low-end QB1. If you're choosing between someone like him and Kirk Cousins, you might want to go Cousins just because it's a little bit safer, but I doubt that. And it was just announced the Dolphins will be without Ryan Tannehill today. He is officially out against the Bears, so you're going to see Brock Osweiler against that Bears defense. That'll be fun as a Bears fan. So going down, let's see, Godwin, Mike Williams, or D.D. Westbrook. I'll go with Godwin. A lot of these guys, like, they're going to be like game script proof, so game script dependent. So Mike Williams, that could be a lower scoring game. He has a tough matchup. He's going to see Denzel Ward quite a bit. D.D. Westbrook, I like the matchup that he has this week, but I'm not confident that game is like, I believe that game is going to be very low volume. Like, I think it's going to be a very slow moving game with the Cowboys and Jags. So D.D. is a little worrisome, and Godwin is playing at least while he's splitting snaps with Adam Humphries and Deshaun Jackson, he's still playing in a high scoring game. Like, that game is going to be bananas. Like, there's gonna be a lot of scoring there, so I'll take Godwin. Crowell or Ridley? That one I think I talked about. Ridley I would play. Let's see, Yeldon or Jordan Howard in a standard. Jordan Howard, hands down. I would play Jordan Howard. I have Jordan Howard as a top 8 running back this week. Doug Baldwin or Amari Cooper in a PPR. Now you're getting to the core of me. Considering that Oakland, this is really tough. Oakland does allow a lot of work to running backs. Like, so Seattle should be able to run the ball on them. That's my only concern for Baldwin, is that it's another low volume game for Russell Wilson. So because of that, I'll go with Amari Cooper. But it's close. It's really close. Jameis Winston or Watson, I would play Jameis Winston. I have Jameis Winston at number 5 this week. The only quarterbacks that I would play over Jameis Winston are Patrick Mahomes, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers. Outside of them, I would be... Dalvin Cook is out. So, guys, breaking news on the show. Dalvin Cook is out for this week. He is not going to play, which means Latavius Murray comes up, and he's like a high-end RB2 this week. I think you have to play Latavius Murray in some DFS, because it's just this Arizona defense. They have allowed, to this point, they've allowed, I think it's 7 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns to running backs. So the game script should favor him a lot. So Dalvin Cook is out. Get him out of lineups. He's not playing. So that is an update I need to go through and make right now, just to make sure that I don't forget, because like me personally, I have to do this stuff as soon as I get off the air. So I'm going to X him off there. So players that I would play Latavius Murray. Let's actually just do this. It's an exercise that we can do together. So Latavius Murray, I'm going to move him up right now. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to slot him. I would play Latavius Murray over guys like Lamar Miller. I think I would play him over Carlos Hyde. It's really close. I'd play him over Adrian Peterson, over Isaiah Crowell, over Alfred Morris. So you guys understand the region that I'd put Latavius Murray in. The players that I'd play over him, TJ Yeldon is really close. Like, those two players are close. Again, my concerns with that Jacksonville-Dallas game is the low volume. Chris Carson I would play over Latavius Murray. I'd play David Johnson over him. James White, Marshawn Lynch. So that's where the range I have him, which he's like a mid QB2 this week, is where I have Latavius Murray with Dalvin Cook out. Let me go down to the next question. But yeah, Jameis Winston, if you guys have him on your fantasy team, start him. George Kittle or David Njoku? It's got to be Kittle this week. So with Green Bay losing Morgan Burnett this offseason, their safety play hasn't been as good against tight ends. So I would go Kittle. David Njoku against LA. LA has actually done a really good job against tight ends for the past few years. So Njoku is a player that wouldn't surprise me if he broke out any point. Like, next week is the week David Njoku's he's gonna go ham. Like, he's gonna go off. They're going against Tampa Bay. But so if you can trade for David Njoku, I suggest doing that right now. But yeah, he's the one I would bench this week for George Kittle. Let's see. Cooks or Godwin? Ooh, that's tough. I would go with Brandon Cooks, because I couldn't live with myself if he caught a long touchdown and he was on my bench. That's where I'm at. Because if you look at the Denver Broncos, they've allowed more 20-plus yard plays than any other team in the NFL. They've allowed more 20-plus yard touchdowns, more 20-plus yard, on passes over 20 yards. They've allowed the most yardage in the NFL. They're getting beat deep, and Brandon Cooks is obviously a guy that can get down the field. So, I mean, he was involved with the game plan all week. He was participating in the walkthroughs. He was cleared from concussion. I don't think there's any worries here with him. Godwin is still a somewhat part-time player. I like him as like a guy that you could toss into your lineup as like a flex, but I would play Brandon Cooks. All right, let's see. I'm guessing that's Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray, Godwin, or Robbie Anderson. I would play Latavius Murray of those guys. All right, Antonio Callaway or Kenyon Drake, PPR flex. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Kenyon Drake here. I don't like Antonio Callaway this week. I don't think he's a very good matchup. I don't think he has a very good matchup. He's going to face off with Casey Hayward and Trevor Williams for the majority of the day. It's not a good matchup for any wide receiver, let alone someone that's been struggling. Antonio Callaway is getting snaps. He's getting targets. I get it. But at the same time, give me the running back. I mean, Osweiler, maybe he'll check down a bit more to Kenyon Drake. I mean, Drake saw a season high, 11 targets last week. So apparently they're trying to involve him more in the passing game. Let's see. Diggs or Cooks? Diggs. I would play Diggs here. And the reason I would is because Cooks, well, I do like the matchup, and I like, everything I talked about just a moment ago. The reason I like that, but it's still, there's risk with him because he's playing in the snow, right? If it's a snow game and it's a low temperature, it's not great. Brandon Cooks traditionally in his career hasn't played well in the cold, which was, a lot of people were questioning that when he went to New England. Like, why would they sign for a guy that hasn't played well in the cold? That's my concern with him this week. So it's not enough to say oh my God, you have to bench him or anything, but that's my worry with him this week. Corey Davis or Sammy Watkins in a half PPR. I would play Sammy Watkins. Corey Davis he's in a brutal matchup this week. So it's a tough cornerback matchup for any wide receiver to succeed, let alone someone like Davis who's playing with a quarterback who's really struggling right now. Like, Marcus Mariota has been struggling. He hasn't been hitting his receivers in stride, nothing like that. So Davis has to make circus catches when he does catch the ball, and doing that in tight coverage that he's going to see this week against the Ravens, it's just not great. Sammy Watkins, part of a high-scoring game against New England. Stephon Gilmore hasn't been great this year. I think he's allowed 3 touchdowns in his coverage to this point. So, I mean, it's a beatable matchup. Amari Cooper or Nyheim Hines in a flex and a half PPR. I'm going to go with Amari Cooper. I think Nyheim Hines starts taking somewhat of a back seat going forward. I think Marlon Mack is the running back that they want to carry the load for them. And Nyheim Hines he's going to be a usable part. Like, he's going to catch some passes out of the backfield. He's going to be like a Chris Thompson used to be. And because like last year, people have this idea of Chris Thompson as like, he's like this stud. But if you go back, I mean, the prior years, Chris Thompson was always pretty solid. He just never had the breakout performances like he did in 2017. So that's kind of how I view Nyheim Hines going forward. He's a fine, low upside flex play. That's how I feel about him. Amari Cooper, after having 1 target last week, it's tough for me to say that I'm extremely confident in the coaching staff and confident in Derek Carr getting him the ball. But at the same time, I mean, the floor, I'll risk the floor of Amari Cooper to get the ceiling rather than playing Nyheim Hines. Andrew Luck versus Andy Dalton, standard scoring. So let me see. I always like, so when I have a question like this where I'm like really torn, the thing is with Luck, so he's down 3 starting offensive linemen now. He has 2 starting offensive linemen left, and one of them is a rookie. And the one that's not a rookie is actually, like, he was very questionable for this game. Apparently he's going to play. Ryan Kelly, their center, he's going to play, but his offensive line is so bad right now. Missing T.Y. Hilton, missing Jack Doyle. There's just so many things with Andrew Luck that I'm concerned about that I would play Andy Dalton over him. Looking at the Pittsburgh defense, did they turn a corner last week against Atlanta? I think they did. They're bringing the pressure. J.J. Watt is anchoring that defense, and they're going to get some pressure on Andy Dalton. Knowing that Dalton is missing a couple of his weapons, I think, like I said, I think that game is going to be lower scoring than usual. But if the Steelers didn't turn that corner, and if A.J. Green can shake loose of Joe Hayden, then it's a matchup, obviously, you'd want to play Andy Dalton. So I'm going to go with Dalton there. It's not something I feel great about, but I would probably play Dalton. Let's see. Watkins or QT? I would play Watkins for sure. Josh Gordon or Aaron Jones? Now, you see, that's a good question. And the reason I say it's a good question is because Josh Gordon, he's only played 18 snaps in each of his 2 games with the Patriots. So we don't know if he's going to see a snap count rise. He's playing in a high-scoring game. There's reasons we want to like Josh Gordon a lot, right? Like, we know that the potential's there. But the question is, does he get enough playing time to make that happen? Aaron Jones is in a matchup it's a decent one. Like, the 49ers have been better against the run. Fred Warner, rookie linebacker, getting back. Why am I forgetting names today? This is like killing me. Reuben Foster, getting him back. It's like their run defense has been better. So it's not like the greatest matchup, but the thing is the game script for Aaron Jones should really play into him getting 10 plus carries. So knowing he's going to get 10 plus carries, I'm going to play him over Josh Gordon. I don't like sitting Josh Gordon in this matchup because I feel like it could be a spot where he does see a snap count increase. It feels like a spot where there's going to be a ton of points scored in this game. So while I do like Gordon, I'm going to play Aaron Jones in that one. That one's close. That was a really good question. All right, let's see. Latavius Murray or Ito Smith in a PPR. I would play Latavius Murray hands down. Ronald Jones or Alex Collins. I would play Alex Collins. Yeah, Ronald Jones, again, if I knew that Ronald Jones was going to play and that Peyton Barber was like inactive for whatever reason, Ronald Jones would be in every lineup that I have. But knowing that there's some back and forth, and I think Peyton Barber is still slated to be the starter, I'm a little worried about Ronald Jones, so I would go with Alex Collins, even in a tough matchup, and it is a tough one. Is Marquise Goodwin droppable? Yeah, he's droppable. If there's someone better on the waiver wire, I mean, I would rather have someone like Cortland Sutton than him right now. Ronald Jones, Royce Freeman, or Deion Lewis at the flex. Standard, thank you. All right, so Royce Freeman in a tough matchup. All right. Yep. And by the way, guys, Dalvin Cook, that graphic that we have on the screen right there, this was made this morning. And he is out now. They announced it's a surprise inactive. They expected him to play, but he is out. Dalvin Cook is out. If you guys are just joining the stream, if you guys didn't see, but he's out for the game. All right. So Royce Freeman, man, it's really tough because it's not a really good matchup for him against the Rams. There's not a team that's allowed much. I want to say that the Rams, I'm going to pull it up right now just to make sure, but I want to say they have not allowed a running back. Yep, I'm right. They have not allowed a running back more than 16.9 PPR points this year. Like that's really, like, that's good. It's because they've only allowed 3 touchdowns to running backs. through 5 games. And obviously you have Phillip Lindsay there taking touches. So to know that both of them, the upside's just not really there right now. So Dion Lewis, I mean, if it was a PPR, I'd like him better. This is tough. You know what? I am going to go Royce Freeman because I think he has the best shot at a touchdown. In standard leagues, you kind of have to chase the touchdown, which is why I prefer PPR. I think PPR leagues are a little bit more predictable for me. I can predict someone getting 5 catches for 60 yards better than I can someone get 1 catch for 70 yards and a touchdown. There's a lot of things you can't predict. So looking at standard and looking at guys that are all in this range here, Royce Freeman's the one with the best shot at a touchdown because he's going to get goal line carries. Talking about that game being cold, maybe they lean towards the run a little bit more. Knowing that Vance Joseph, his job is on the line, there's a lot of things here. So I'll go with Royce Freeman. PPR Allison versus Chester Rogers versus Crabtree. I'd probably play Chester Rogers in a PPR, actually. So I'm playing Chester Rogers in my cash lineup in DraftKings this week. So I'm playing him in a PPR. I actually like Crabtree this week too, but in a PPR, I'll go Rogers. He's a little safer. Aaron Jones or David Johnson? David Johnson. Let's see. All right, need to stop again. All right, Baldwin or Hooper in the flex? Baldwin. Yeah, I mean, I like Hooper. He's got a good matchup against Tampa Bay. They've allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends. I get that stuff. But at the same time, the wide receivers have a great matchup too. Austin Hooper's coming off arguably the best game of his life last week. So I'm not gonna bet on that happening 2 weeks in a row. So I'll go with Doug Baldwin here. He's got a decent matchup in the slot there too against Darrell Worley in Oakland. Let's see. Julian Edelman or Boyd in a PPR flex. I'm going to play Edelman just because I trust his quarterback a lot more than I do Tyler Boyd's. Boyd or Sanders in a standard. I will go with Tyler Boyd, I think. Again, Tyler Boyd, Mike Hilton, the matchup is a little tough against them, but knowing that Joe Hayden is probably going to match up with AJ Green the majority of the day, he should be shadowing him around. It should create more opportunities for Boyd. Where Sanders, it's like playing in this low temperature game, potential snow. There's just a lot of factors here that are going to cause me to lower pass catchers a little bit in that game. So I will go with Boyd there. Let's see, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper or Allen Robinson, a half PPR. Man, those are all so close. So Cooper Kupp, as I mentioned earlier in the show, he's going to match up with Chris Harris Jr. That's one of the toughest slot matchups that you can possibly have. Now, granted, they move Kupp around. They do actually, they disguise coverage, the way that they'll line up their wide receivers. They'll disguise it in a way that they can get Kupp matched up with a linebacker in coverage. But how much do they throw in this game? Does he get matched up with Harris Jr. 75% of the time? Amari Cooper, probably has the best matchup here, but the thing is he's the most volatile wide receiver in fantasy football. It's hard to predict what's going to happen. Allen Robinson, he's another one that's probably going to deal with some low volume in a tough matchup against Miami. Their secondary between Xavier Howard and Minkah Fitzpatrick are going to cover him the majority of the time. It's going to be tough for him. So to me, it's between Cooper and Kupp. Wow, Cooper and Kupp. I should have said it's between Kupp and Cooper. Man, I would probably go with Kupp just because I know his floor is going to be higher than Amari Cooper's, but I think my heart is telling me Cooper Kupp, but my brain but my common sense says to play Kupp. So I'll go Kupp. So don't you at me and tell me that I only love Amari Cooper. I understand the situation, guys. Alfred Morris or Hines in a PPR. I would play Alfred Morris. Pick one for the flex. Adrian Peterson, Phillip Lindsay, QT, or Davis. That's tough. I don't like Adrian Peterson this week. Phillip Lindsay. I'll go with Phillip Lindsay there just because he's a running back and I want the guaranteed touches in a PPR. John Brown, Deshaun Jackson, or McCoy in a flex PPR. I would go with John Brown, I want to say. It's close though because Deshaun Jackson is right in the same territory. Those two are legitimately right next to each other in my rankings. So I have no issue if you want to say Deshaun Jackson over John Brown because they're both similar plays. LaShawn McCoy, the upside is just lacking. Houston is not going to allow anything on the ground. They haven't been targeting him in the pass game very much, so I don't like him here. But Deshaun Jackson and John Brown, they're both similar plays. I have them as low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3s. Tyler Boyd or John Brown in a full PPR. Oh, I mean, drink on that one. I would go with, man, I'd probably go with Tyler Boyd in a full PPR. I just know he's going to catch more passes, I think. John Brown has more upside, though. George Kittle or Eric Ebron, full PPR. I'll go with George Kittle. CJ Beathard just doesn't have many options to throw to right now. Pierre Garçon is very questionable for this game. Marquise Goodwin has been in and out of the lineup all year long. Trent Taylor's not going to play. Dante Pettis is not going to play. Matt Breida is not going to play. The targets have to go somewhere. So George Kittle is kind of like a must play at this point. Jordan Howard or TJ Yeldon in a PPR. I would play Jordan Howard this week. I understand the reasoning that you'd want to play Yeldon in a PPR, but I'm really curious to see how much Jamal Charles eats into his receptions, because Jamal Charles, one of the things that he did best in his career, catching the ball out of the backfield. He's had some time to get with the offense now. So I don't know. That game, as I mentioned, I do believe that game between the Cowboys and the Jags is going to be extremely low volume, and that's going to hurt some players like TJ Yeldon, who relies on, this catching the passes out of the backfield, because he's not necessarily the greatest 1-2 down back. So I'll go Jordan Howard there. I think he scores this week, maybe twice. Aaron Jones, Lamar Miller, or Deion Lewis in a PPR format. Lamar Miller. Nobody wants to listen to me on this one, and I feel like I'm on an island with him, and I want to explain that Lamar Miller hasn't been great, okay? But I also want to say that his circumstances have not been great. He's went against some good run defenses. He plays behind a terrible offensive line. But going against Buffalo has looked better the last couple weeks on defense, but at the same time, they have enough to worry about in that Houston passing game that they're not going to stack the box and say, oh, we're going to do everything in our power to stop Lamar Miller. I don't think that's the case. I think Lamar Miller should see a lot of work in the passing game as well. And again, Buffalo has been burned there before. So I'm going to play Lamar Miller. Woohoo. All right. Latavius Murray or Phillip Lindsay? I'm playing Latavius Murray. As I mentioned, guys, if you guys are just joining us now, so Dalvin Cook has been announced as out for this game, and we kind of did an exercise where I talked through which running backs I'd start over Latavius Murray, which running backs I'd start him over. Some of the running backs that I would start Latavius Murray over this week are Lamar Miller, Carlos Hyde, Adrian Peterson, Isaiah Crowell, Alfred Morris. Phillip Lindsay is also in that conversation. And Chris Thompson has been announced as out. That just came across my screen. So Chris Thompson is out for this week. Adrian Peterson, he's dinged up too. That Washington team is just dealing with a whole lot of injuries. Let's see. Hines or Aaron Jones in a PPR. In that one, I'll go Hines, I think, just because the PPR adds a lot for me, because the Packers are not going to be dumping down to their running backs very much this week. So I will go with Hines. The lack of pass catchers, there's a lack of pass catchers in Indianapolis right now. So Hines I would assume that he's going to catch at least 4, maybe 5 passes. So that should provide you with a solid floor. We can't say the same thing about Aaron Jones. Matty Ice or Mahomes? Wow, that's a good choice to have. I don't know if this is a DFS question or not. It's probably not, considering Mahomes is not on the main slate, but I have Mahomes ranked number 1. I have Matt Ryan ranked number 2. So I would say Mahomes, just because, and the reason I do is because he's going to be able to throw on New England, and he also offers rushing upside, which is something that Matt Ryan doesn't. I mean, you could say that he ran for 2 touchdowns earlier this year, but let's be real. Jordan Howard or John Brown in a full PPR? Jordan Howard. Let's see. Gordon, so I'm guessing that's Josh Gordon, Quincy Nunwa, or Keelan Cole in a half PPR. This is a scenario where I'd play Josh Gordon. And the reason I say that is because Josh Gordon, he comes with some risk for sure. But a game that has an over-under of 59.5, there's going to be some fireworks in that game. Tom Brady, the reason that I want to believe Josh Gordon becomes more is because, when you saw Tom Brady in trouble last week, you saw him throw the ball up in double coverage to Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon, it's like he hit the little turbo button, he stuck in right between the 2 defenders and grabbed the ball. He made it look so easy, but it really wasn't that easy of a play if you go back and watch it. The defenders there for the Colts were kind of clueless, but at the same time, the way the ball was placed and where he had to go in between the 2 defenders, it was just something I saw in that play that was better. But either way, Tom Brady showed trust in Josh Gordon, and that's why I want to trust him. Quincy Nunwa is playing more on the slot now that Jermaine Kearse is back in the lineup. That's a problem. And then Keelan Cole, matchup isn't terrible against Dallas, but again, low volume game. I just don't want to attack Jacksonville's pass catchers if I don't have to. Cooper, Robinson, or Godwin, full PPR. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate that, man. So, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't love Amari Cooper more than I probably should. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't favorite him sometimes just because, like, it's, you know, I want to see him do well. But looking at these matchups, talking it through, it's like Amari Cooper against Seattle defense that has really no shutdown corner. Shaquille Griffin has played well at times, but he's also been not so well at times. And the thing is, Amari Cooper is only going to see him about 30% of the time. Amari Cooper has a really, really good matchup this week. Again, they're in London. There's more variables in this as usual. He had one target last week. Does Derek Carr wake up and say, I need to target Amari Cooper more? Does the offense say, they go to him? Does Greg Olsen go to him? Does, John Gruden go to him and say, hey, we're going to design plays for Amari Cooper. You need to give him the ball. Does that happen? We don't know. But let's talk about the other ones. Allen Robinson against Miami. The Bears should not be throwing a whole lot in this game. The only way they lose this game is if they turn the ball over on offense. That defense will win them this game if they allow it to. So I don't think that Mitch Trubisky throws the ball more than 20, 25 times this week. That is going to limit Allen Robinson's target potential. And on top of that, he's going to have Xavier Howard glued to his hip. And then when he goes in the slot, he's going to see Minkah Fitzpatrick, who has been arguably football's best slot cornerback. So that's not a good matchup. And you go to Chris Godwin. Godwin I like. I really do like him. But let's not pretend that there's not an elephant in the room here. Chris Godwin is fourth on the Buccaneers in snaps at wide receiver. He's playing behind Mike Evans, behind Deshaun Jackson, even behind Adam Humphries in snaps. Does that change this week? I don't know. I wish I could tell you that I did know, but what I do know is that Godwin is extremely touchdown dependent. So I'm going to go Amari Cooper here. I hope you guys can understand why I'm saying Amari Cooper here. I felt the need to explain it, just considering you guys know I'm usually partial, I guess, to him, but I'm slowly backing away from that. I don't consider him a must start like every single week if you have better options. I just don't think that these guys are better options this week. Trey Burton or David Njoku in a standard, I would play Trey Burton. So again, knowing that Robinson's got a tough matchup, David Njoku, again, so the reason is because Trey Burton is more of like a wide receiver. So he's not necessarily a tight end. So when you look at Miami and see that they haven't allowed much to tight ends, it's a little bit different when looking at Trey Burton. But at the same time, there's not going to be many pass attempts, but the Bears do have to score some points, right? Trey Burton has been like the primary guy they look to in the red zone, whether it be on like sweep plays, whether it be on like almost shuffle handoffs, or they can target it in the pass game. David Njoku is still yet to score a touchdown. He's going to at some point, but the Chargers have been really, really good against tight ends. Even looking at him this week or this year, the only tight end that they allowed to go for more than 35 yards was George Kittle. And the reason that George Kittle did was because he caught an 82-yard touchdown. If he didn't catch that outside of that 82-yard catch for a touchdown, he had totaled, I think it was 40-some yards against them. So it's not a great matchup for David Njoku, but if you can trade for him and buy him low, I would do that. Let's see, Devin Funchess or QT. I would go with Devin Funchess of the two. I think Funchess has greater touchdown upside. All right, let's see. Cameron Brate or Vance McDonald in the standard. I would play Cameron Brate. Vance McDonald was a letdown last week. Yes, he's running the majority of the routes. He's playing more snaps than Jesse James, but James is still obviously involved to a certain extent. Cameron Brate, this week is the one where he's going to, even if OJ Howard is active for this game, which it seems like he was pushing to be active, even if he is, I don't think that he plays a significant role. I think Cameron Brate is the primary tight end this week, and I think they have OJ Howard and is like not an emergency role, but more of like a backup role to Cameron Brate. So I would play Brate over McDonald. Stephon Diggs or Doug Baldwin, I would play Stephon Diggs. And so here's the thing. So I'm really curious to see how Arizona handles Stephon Diggs, because Patrick Peterson hasn't been shadowing. If you go back to week 1, many people miss this because Patrick Peterson has been sticking at left cornerback over the last, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. But back in week 1, he was kind of following Josh Doxson. He was kind of like he played on both left and the right. He bounced back, but I think it was like 70% of the time he played left corner, 30% right corner against the Redskins in week 1. But then going forward, they had him stuck at left cornerback and they're playing a lot of zone coverage, which, that would be a good thing for Stephon Diggs because Diggs can just go line up on the left side and, get whoever he wants. So I think that they're smart enough to get Diggs the ball and get him away from Patrick Peterson. So I'm going to go Stephon Diggs here. Amari Cooper or Latavius in the flex. This is a situation where I go Latavius. Latavius is the guaranteed touches. Like there's no way that I could pass up Latavius Murray for a guy like Amari Cooper, who we know the volume is just very, very minimal. Let's see. Ronald Jones or Hines. I would play Hines because Ronald Jones hasn't been guaranteed anything right now. Unless if we hear that Peyton Barber's inactive, which I don't think that, I think someone would have let me know about that by now. I think he's active. As long as he's active, I think that he's going to be the starter right now. So I would go with Hines. Let's see, Winston or Watson, standard rest of the league, the rest of the season. The rest of the season, I would still prefer Deshaun Watson for sure. Olsen or Njoku, I would play Njoku because Olsen is like my do not start if you can help it list. If you have another viable tight end, which David Njoku is. Greg Olsen, I don't trust him coming off the foot injury. Last year, if you guys go back and look at what he did coming off of the foot injury last year, it didn't go so well. So approach with caution with Greg Olsen, seriously. But guys, thank you guys. Again, I'm going to answer a couple more questions, but I do want to thank you guys for popping in. I know there's a lot of new people going in and out and stuff like that, but if you guys hit the subscribe button and hit that like button, it really does help us out. It helps me out because that's the only way that my bosses can judge that I'm doing my job and doing it well, is that if you guys subscribe and if you like the videos, because that tells them that you want to keep seeing it. So subscribe to the channel, and if you're subscribing, you're also going to have a chance to win. I'm going to show it to you guys. You're going to have a chance to win this Michael Thomas signed jersey. If you guys go to fantasypros.com/jersey-giveaway, there's the steps there. It literally takes 2 minutes to get entered. I want to hear one of you guys win that jersey giveaway. And if you guys do that, I mean, that'd be awesome. So, and one of the ways that you have to win that jersey is that you actually have to be subscribed to the channel. So do it. All right, let me answer a few more questions before we get out of here, and I have to set my lineups and do all that fun stuff. So, all right, Alfred Morris or Latavius Murray since Cook is out. I would play Latavius Murray over Alfred Morris. Bibbs, Collins, or Morris standard. I would play Alfred Morris in that situation. Full PPR, Fuller or Smokey. I would go with John Brown. I'd play John Brown here just because the matchup here against Tennessee is better. They've been beaten deep a few times, whereas Will Fuller going against the Bills, who have stepped up. They've actually played a lot better as of late. I'm approaching with caution against that Bills defense. Is it worth dropping Brate for Burton PPR? I would think so, yeah, because the thing is you're probably going to have to bid up against Trey to get Trey Burton next week. I mean, is Cameron Brate that much of an upgrade over Trey Burton that I'd rather have him for the rest of the season? No, I would rather have Burton for the rest of the season. But Brate is a superior play this week, so it really all depends on what you're looking for. Better stash, Aaron Jones or Mac? Aaron Jones for sure. Part of the better offense. Full point PPR, Mike Williams or Taylor Gabriel or Chester Rogers. I would play Chester Rogers. As I've mentioned before, I'm playing Chester Rogers in my cash game lineups. So, yeah, if I'm playing my cash game lineups, it means I feel really safe about him. So in a full point PPR, I would go him. Let's see, Sammy Watkins or Aaron Jones PPR. Oh, that one's tough. I'd probably go with Sammy Watkins. It's really close, but I would probably go with Watkins there. All right, so one more question. Baldwin or Robinson? So Doug Baldwin or Allen Robinson? I would play Doug Baldwin. Thank you guys so much. Seriously, for everyone that shows up every single week, you guys have been phenomenal. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you guys for the likes on the video. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. It really does help me out. And hopefully you guys learned something today, because the idea is that when we do these live streams, you learn something that you didn't maybe necessarily know before you came to it. And if you learned something, I did my job. So thank you guys as always for tuning in. Best of luck in your week 6 matchups, and we will be back next week. Until then, lights out.